Hey guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. So today I'm going to do sort of a quick, basically like a part 2 to the video that I just released on how it feels to be in neutrality and inner union. So I want to expand a little bit on that video in regard to some of the aspects that I was talking about when I am mentioning being in neutrality and inner union, and so how that plays out in the physical relationship with the twin. And us having this sort of concept, belief, hope, idea that once we come into physical union with the twin, true physical union with the twin, if that's what you choose to do as a divine feminine, not all divine feminines do, but if that's what you choose after you have come into inner union with self, that how that looks, right? How that neutral game, that very balanced energy plays out within and without. And in that video, so if you haven't seen that video, I would suggest you watch it so you know what I'm talking about in this video. It's going to be the one right before I release this one, so it's easy to find. So when we're talking about neutrality, as I was saying in that video, when we're talking about being in a very balanced state within, which is where you have to be in inner union in order to have that physical interaction and dynamic with the physical twin show up in a very harmonious, very, lasting, balanced, equal, neutral way. That when we're really wanting and hoping that relationship to show up the same way as it showed up when we were first in that beginning stage with the twin, right? So, we had a lot of like passion, we had a lot of, whatever you experienced, during that stage. It could be a lot of euphoria, you're coming online, you're, who is this person? This feels amazing. A lot of soul recognition. Obviously, a lot of very high blissful energy as you're recognizing yourself, you're recognizing your same energy in another, and all of these sort of things. And so we really want that to sort of come back, on the path. And a lot of divine feminines, that's their main focus, right? That's the main goal. And I understand that, I get that, been there, everybody's been there. And we sort of miss the point in regard to, in the beginning stages, in regard to really embracing this journey as the spiritual awakening and ascension that it is. And so we're really focused on just wanting that romantic physical relationship that we had, or union, or however we defined it in the beginning. We want that back, right? And so when we're talking a lot about neutrality and coming into balance and what that looks like and how that feels within, as I said in that other video, we have a lot of this idea is that once we come into physical union, then it's just going to be like a heightened sort of, even better version of what we had when we first came together. So even more passion, even more intense, even more like, awesome. And it's just going to be like soulmate, high vibrational soulmate, but even way, way better. And so just having that awareness that when the mind is doing that, not only is it in chasing energy again, because we're focusing on a future outcome based on a past outcome, and wanting to control that future outcome based on what we experienced in the past outcome. And so we're focusing on, again, the relationship and the twin and whatever else. So just have that awareness. That's not what this video is about, but just have that awareness that that's chasing energy if you're doing that. And to bring your focus back onto you. But the purpose of this video is to really go a little bit deeper into what I went into the video prior to this, of having that awareness of that when you are in neutrality, right? When you are back in balance, when you are in inner union within, that this is a peaceful state within. It's a harmonious state within. It's coming back into balance within. It's coming back into the knowing, the feeling, the embodiment, the awareness that you are pure source consciousness, right? That you are soul. And when you're in this place and you're anchored here, your vibration is higher, right? Your frequency has risen out of the third dimensional vibration of separation consciousness into the fifth dimensional frequency of unity consciousness, right? Which is the oneness, which is the harmony, which is the peace, which is the interconnectivity with all things. It's the awareness that I am that in everything that I see. So this is a very different vibration. It's a very different frequency, right? And this is the evolution of soul. And this is the purpose of this process with the twin. This is what the awakening is bringing you back to, right? Back into your true essence, back into your true soul vibration as it is experiencing itself still in physical form. So as you are experiencing these things within, again, this is what inner union does, then that is going to be reflected through the divine masculine physically in that same vibration. So we're not going to have that same relationship, dynamic connectivity that we had in the beginning stages, because that was based in separation, right? We were still in ego then. We were still in mind then. We were still running separation consciousness then, right? That was the activation that we had to trigger the awakening process to eventually bring us into inner union, which is a very peaceful, balanced state. So when we're in this peaceful, balanced state within, and we're not even concerned about what's going on with the divine masculine physically anymore, and you won't be, it's not like I don't give a shit. It's just that you're so much in your own energy, which is theirs, and your own resonance and your own embodiment back into alignment with your true soul essence and your true soul self, that all of those other 3D constructs, they just don't have any vibrational resonance with you anymore, right? As I've said in a lot of my videos, once you come into 5D, alignment with self again, with the true source essence of who you are, all of these third dimensional programs and constructs and belief systems and all of these things, they just are going to fall away naturally and organically, because this is a process of ascension. You are ascending up, which means you are ascending out of those third dimensional lower vibratory densities into a higher vibratory state of the 5D, which is operating in union and operating in harmony. So since we were experiencing the beginning stages with our twin, and the midway stages and all the stages until you get into inner union, honestly, in the third dimensional paradigm of program of separation, of this is how relationships are supposed to show up, this is what you're supposed to do, if you really cared about me, you would be acting like X, Y, Z. All of these sort of things are still operating from that separation paradigm and from those ego mechanisms. So what you experienced initially is not what you're going to experience when you come into inner union with your masculine physically, right? It's not going to be that. And so when we're talking about having that neutral state, which I mentioned in that other video, and a lot of people sort of describe this or feel like if you haven't come into this state, then, and you're still in the separation paradigm, then potentially you're describing or thinking that neutrality is boring, right? Neutrality is boring. Why do I want to do that? I still want to have a lot of passion. I still want to have a lot of adventure. I still want to have, all of these highs and all of this stuff, right? And all the stuff that we think that romantic relationship is supposed to look like based on what we've experienced in the past, right? So based on what we've experienced when we were in that lower vibratory state, having other romantic relationships that were on and off, up and down, break up, argue, get back together, whatever that is, like all the constructs that we're all used to having in romantic relationship. And as I've said, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But when you shift onto the twin flame path, it's not going to be any of those things anymore. That's the purpose, is that you're not operating in that paradigm anymore. And so it's not that you cannot have passion or adventure with your divine masculine in a physical romantic way once you have come into inner union. You absolutely can, right? It's not like the passion dies and there's no passion anymore or anything like that. It's just that there's a couple things going on here. First of all, as I said in that other video, passion is not love, right? Passion is not love. Adventure is not love. Highs and lows are not love, right? These are coming from wounds. They're coming from traumas. They're coming from separation. They're coming from, I am separate from you. You're not the same as me. We're different, all of those sort of things. And so we're both bringing our stuff into this relationship, and that stuff is playing out, right? So that's that paradigm. There's nothing wrong with it. But this paradigm and the twin flame dynamic is not that paradigm. And so if we're trying to pull that in and hoping that it's just going to be slightly elevated, then those things aren't going to translate. So I've done several videos, but one of the videos that I would recommend that you watch if you're not really sure what I'm saying here is the video that's titled 3D Relationship versus 5D Union, right? It's a really important understanding that we have in regard to this path that we're walking, because we're not looking for a 3D relationship with the twin, right? That's not the goal. The 3D is running separation consciousness. It always has and it always will, right? We're looking for 5D union. 5D union, again, is coming from union within first and foremost before anything else is going to show up in any sort of harmonious unity, oneness type of way with the twin. Physically, is if we are in union with self. And as I said, union with self is coming from the fifth dimension, right? It's coming from 5D consciousness, unity consciousness, oneness, and all these things. So we can't pull up this 3D relationship based on separation and then try to overlap it into the inner union physical relationship with the twin. It's just not going to look like that anymore. And as I said, all of these paradigms that we're relating to those relationships that we used to have were based in separation. So it isn't that you don't have passion with the twin anymore. It can be extremely passionate. It's just that it's soul driven now, right? Your interaction with the physical masculine is soul led. It's soul driven. It's coming from higher consciousness, right? This is what we're talking about when we're talking about being very telepathic with the twin. You know, we're talking about sacred sexuality, when we're talking about sacred union and divine union. This is a completely different frequency and a completely different vibration than anything that any of us have experienced on this planet, because we have been running the 3D paradigm of separation. And so we're looking at passion and adventure and, you know, the highs and lows of the relationship and, you know, getting all tied up in the snowball thing and all of that. That's all fine and good. Again, I'm not here to like down that or, you know, demonize that in any way. But when we're over here in 5D union and union with self and in 5D union relationship with the twin physically, then we have shifted into a whole nother paradigm. We've shifted into another dimension is what we've done. We've shifted into a completely different vibration. And this vibration, how the passion is going to come through, which I don't really like to use that word, but how that intensity is going to come through is going to be heightened to a measure that you cannot really comprehend until you experience it, right? So it isn't boring, right? This isn't a boring state. This is a blissful state. It's a union state. It's a soul-led state. It's a higher consciousness state. The difference is, and it's a huge difference, there are several differences, but one of the giant differences is that you're not getting yanked around anymore like a Raggedy Ann doll attached to a merry-go-round, right? You are not doing this anymore. There's no highs and lows and ups and downs and ins and outs and dips and all of these sort of things that we've had with most of our other relationships, right? It's just not happening anymore. We are now in a place of sacred divine union, right? This is a very higher vibratory state. We're in a place of sacred sexuality. This is not coming from the lower vibratory state anymore. And so I really want to make that clear, because I think in the last video, I kind of like, I think the video got long and I didn't like really get into what that balanced state feels like, right? In regard to being in physical union with the twin. It does feel blissful, right? It does feel amazing. But it's not because the physical aspect of the twin is making it feel amazing. It's because you have come into complete union with self. And so the integration within you of the masculine and feminine has anchored. And as that has anchored, you have come fully back into love with self, with your energy. Your energy has completely integrated back within. Not that it wasn't before, but you were running all of these programs that created a wall between you and you, right? And this wall between you and you was keeping you separate from you, basically, right? And so once you've taken this wall down, you are back in a harmonious state within, with all aspects within, right? And within this place, there aren't those fear mechanisms running anymore. We're not having any of that fear-based energy anymore. And what's creating the highs and the lows in most of the relationships that we've had in the past, and certainly in you know the in and out separation processes with the twin, is fear, right? It's fear and it's lack and it's unworthiness and it's, you know, not feeling good enough and feeling like we need to be validated and feeling like, you know, the whoever needs to show up in a certain way in order to, you know, make us feel better or to prove their love for us or to prove, you know, all of that stuff is all 3D. It's all coming from a state of separation with self, basically, you know, and then that means you're not only, if you're in separation with self, then you're in separation with everything, right? And this is where the ego comes online and starts, you know, defending itself and arguing and reacting and doing all the things that it does. When you're in union with self, and then if you decide to be in physical union with the twin, it's not happening anymore. That stuff's not coming up. You're not running any of that stuff anymore, right? The fear mechanisms have shut down, right? They are not a part of your resonance. They are not a part of your vibratory state anymore because you're not in the third dimensional vibratory state anymore. You're now in a fifth dimensional vibratory state of oneness and of union. And so that paradigm now that you're in, which is interconnectivity with other, not codependency with other, right? This state shows up as freedom. It shows up as harmony. It shows up as just knowing. It's just a higher knowing that I'm good no matter what. I'm held no matter what. I'm protected no matter what. I'm soul. I'm sovereign. I'm free. I'm whole. I'm all of these things, and none of these things have anything to do with anyone external to me, including the twin, right? Because the twin is me. It's coming into complete and utter resonance that this person that you have been walking this path with, or that you think that you've been walking this path with, has been you this entire time. And so if you're completely in union with self, completely in love with self, completely enthralled with self, and back in your true consciousness and in your true soul essence, there's no other way for you to show up externally to yourself except for in that same energy, right? But it's a balanced energy. It doesn't have the ups and downs and the highs and lows because it doesn't have any of that fear in it anymore, right? Those things are gone. And so we're not having like that dopamine hit, right? That serotonin rush, you know, the oxytocin like coming online and just like wreaking havoc, right, on our biological system, and thinking that, you know, we're in love with this person because now we're having all this oxytocin flooding through our bloodstream, right? This is what like really trips us up if we want to get to the biology of all the shit that's going on, right? These things, it's not that you're not still a biological being and that you still don't have, you know, emotion and all of those sort of things. You do, but you see it for what it is. Like, you're completely aware of everything that is going on within you, right? Like, you're completely online now. And when I mean online, I mean like you're not offline anymore. There's no sleeping state anymore. You're completely awakened. And so in that place, you're pure source awareness. You're seeing things. You're not reacting to things. It's just, it's a difficult like place. It's a difficult vibration to explain until you're in it, right? But you will feel it as you start to approach inner union. You will start to feel peaceful, right? Even if it's only for like 5 or 10 minutes, you'll start to feel like this, like, it's like a weightlessness almost, right? It's like, people call it freedom, I guess, and it does. And I use the word freedom key all the time, but it's really like a feeling of like lightness, you know, like weightlessness, like just like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's that once you start feeling that here and there, you'll know that you're on the path to inner union. You know that that's what you're approaching, right? When you start to be around your twin and you start to like not be as triggered as much, or to notice the triggers, or to just be like, you know, I used to run that program, but nah, it's just not resonating with me more. Not going to give that any attention. Or if you just notice, yeah, this has been coming up a lot, but I'm just not going to feed it anymore. And you start to just, little by little, you'll start to notice. And as this is happening, you're going to also notice, if you are in physical interaction with the twin, that the twin is going to start reflecting back to you a new level of calm, right? A new level of peace, a new level of balance, right? It might not stay, but you're going to start noticing that coming in, because you're noticing it within you, right? And I'm not saying this is going to be instant. There's a timeline lag and all of those sort of things. So if you're starting to feel that, just know that you're starting to come into that inner union state, little by little, bit by bit. And as that's happening, you're going to notice when you get triggered more, right? And you're going to not give that stuff as much energy. So in the same way, and anybody that's coming into this is going to understand what I'm saying, in the same way, when you come into physical union with the twin and they start magnetizing back in, and they'll come in and test and all of those sort of things and come back into that until you really start anchoring in. And so little by little, just as you're in inner union, you're going to notice the union with them. And you're going to notice that it's showing up in a higher vibratory place. It's not showing up the way that it used to show up back in, you know, the past, however, when that was with you and your twin. Now it's going to start showing up in a more sacred way, right? In a more soul-led way. It was soul-led then too, but now it's at a higher vibratory state. So little by little, you're just going to start to feel more at peace. You're going to start to feel more calm. You're going to start to feel just like, I'm free. I'm not heavy anymore. I'm not like, I don't have all that. I'm not carrying around that sticky, wet coat anymore that I've been dragging around, right? I just don't feel heavy. I'm not aligning to that stuff that I used to align to anymore. Things have been vibrating out of my life, and I'm like, I'm at peace with that. And I see that the roles that they played, but I'm at peace with the fact that I'm shifting, right? I'm shifting higher. And as that's happening, you're going to see that energy reflected in your physical masculine, right? That's what you're going to start to see. And as you continue to go up in the vibratory scale and you anchor fully in inner union, then that is also going to be what the physical interaction with the twin is. It's not boring. It doesn't have no passion. It's not just like, oh, I'm completely neutral now. And it's just like, I don't feel anything. And no, it's not that. It's peace. it's peaceful, it's calm, it's harmony, it's balance. It's like, it feels like you can breathe. Like for me, it just felt like, shit, I don't know if I've ever been breathing for this whole lifetime until I came into inner union. You know, for me, it just felt like, yeah, it's hard to explain. It was like I could breathe again, like I was light again. Like I just felt like I had taken off so many like weights that I had been carrying around for so long. And it was just like, it was just lightness, you know. It was my light being. It is my light being that I am an embodiment of now. And so that's the way the masculine will show up. And so, yes, it can be very passionate and very intense and all of those things, but it's soul-driven passion. It's not wound-driven. It's not karma-driven. It's not trauma bond-driven. It's not separation-driven. It's not fear-driven. It's none of those things. It's harmony-driven. It's oneness-driven. It's sacred-driven, right? It's divinity-driven. It's like, it's a whole nother thing, right? So I just wanted to clarify that because, as I said, the last video that I did on neutrality, I didn't get fully into this, and I didn't want that video to get too long, but I think that these things need to be expanded upon so that we do have an idea that we are moving from one paradigm to another paradigm. And the paradigm that we are leaving behind is not the paradigm that we're going to experience physically with the twin once we are in inner union with self. Neutrality is not boring. It's not a state of, you know, absolutely feeling nothing and just like flatlined and all of these sort of things. That's the void. And I keep meaning to do a video on the void, which maybe I'll try to do that this week as well, so we can understand that, because the void feeling and neutrality are not the same, but sometimes we get those confused. And I think that a lot of times when we're in the void, that's what we feel like, oh God, this is what neutrality feels like? I don't want this, right? Because the void can feel very like disassociating in a lot of ways. So I will do a video on that. So anyway, I hope that that resonates, you guys, and I hope that that assists you. You guys have an awesome day.